You think you know Superman, the man who can fly through stars, punch gods, and see across galaxies. But here's the shocking truth. He wasn't always that powerful. In fact, the original Superman from 1938 couldn't even fly. Yeah, the Man of Steel used to just jump. This is the story of how Superman's powers evolved, from a street-level hero who could lift cars, to a cosmic god who could move planets with his bare hands. And trust me, the way his powers grew over time says everything about how we view heroes, hope, and humanity itself. Stick around till the end, because by the time you see where Superman stands today, you'll realize he's more than a hero. He's an idea that keeps evolving with us. And if you love these deep dive stories into the history of heroes, make sure to subscribe, because this one goes from Krypton to infinity. When Superman first appeared in Action Comics, 1938, he was nothing like the god-tier being we know now. He was tough, really tough, but still human in scale. He couldn't fly. He couldn't survive in space. He couldn't shoot lasers from his eyes. What he could do was leap an eighth of a mile, outrun a speeding train, and lift a car with ease. That's right. His powers were born from the imagination of a world still recovering from the Great Depression. A time when people didn't need a god. They needed a man who could stand up for the helpless. Superman was that man. But as the years rolled on, so did his legend. And legends? They don't stay grounded for long. By the time Superman hit the 1940s, something incredible happened. Readers wanted more. More strength. More spectacle. More impossible. So the writers gave it to them. Suddenly, Superman could fly instead of jump. A change made famous by the 1940s Fleischer cartoons, because animating jumps just looked silly. Then came X-ray vision, super hearing, freeze breath, and the power to survive explosions unharmed. He could even toss tanks like baseballs. By the 1950s, he wasn't just a superhero anymore. He was a myth. And myths don't have limits. Comics showed him juggling planets, rewriting timelines, and creating new stars with his heat vision. At one point, Superman literally sneezed and wiped out a solar system. Yeah, that actually happened in the Silver Age. This was the era of the god Superman. Nothing could hurt him. Not bullets. Not bombs. Not black holes. He could fly faster than light, travel through time, and even split into two Supermen when the story demanded it. He built many planets. He juggled worlds. He moved the moon out of orbit, casually. He even invented new powers every few issues, like superventriloquism, microvision, or supermathematics. It was fun. It was wild. But it also created a problem. How do you write tension for a man who can literally do anything? Writers realized that if Superman never struggles, readers stop caring. And that realization would spark the greatest power reset in comic history. By the late 1970s, even DC knew Superman had become too perfect. He wasn't relatable anymore. He wasn't human anymore. So in 1985, DC made a bold move. They destroyed their entire universe in Crisis on Infinite Earths. And when the dust settled, Superman was reborn, reimagined, grounded again. Writer John Byrne rebuilt him from scratch in The Man of Steel, 1986. This new Superman still had incredible power, but now he had limits. He couldn't push planets anymore. He got hurt. He got tired. And suddenly, he was interesting again. Because this was only the beginning. In the decades that followed, Superman's powers would evolve again, growing, shrinking, and reshaping with every new era. From the godlike Superman Prime, to the solar-powered Superman of the future, to the modern hero struggling to balance humanity and power. So what happens when the symbol of hope becomes something even greater? Let's find out. After the Crisis on Infinite Earths, Superman had been reimagined. Leaner, more grounded, more human. But you can't keep a god chained forever. Because every decade, every writer, and every fan asked the same question. How powerful is Superman really? And with each answer, his legend grew again. In John Byrne's reboot, Superman's powers were scaled back to something believable. He could lift a few hundred tons, maybe a battleship on his best day. He could fly, but not faster than light. He could bleed. He could lose. This was a Superman you could relate to. A man struggling with two identities, the alien god and the Kansas farm boy. But comics never stand still. Fans missed the cosmic, limitless Superman. They wanted miracles again. So through the late 80s and early 90s, his powers crept upward. Slowly, quietly, until one day, they were back to insane levels. Superman was flying through stars, surviving black holes, and shrugging off nuclear explosions. Writers couldn't resist. The myth always outgrows the man. Then came the moment that redefined him all over again, the death of Superman, 1992. Superman fought Doomsday, a mindless monster bred for destruction. For the first time in decades, readers saw him bleed and fall. It was the unthinkable. Superman dead. The world mourned. Millions of copies sold overnight. And DC realized something profound. Superman's greatest power wasn't his strength. It was his sacrifice. But death is never the end in comics. Months later, he returned, reborn with a new suit, new powers, and a new sense of mortality. This was a Superman who had stared death in the face and come back stronger. As the 90s and 2000s unfolded, Superman's powers reached new extremes once again. But this time, there were rules. Writers like Grant Morrison and Mark Waid reimagined him as a cosmic being who could still feel human emotion. In All-Star Superman, 2005, he becomes a solar god, his cells overcharged by the sun. He could move planets, heal broken DNA, and literally see through time. He performed 12 impossible tasks before dying in the sun, a story that felt more like a modern myth than a superhero comic. This wasn't just Superman as a man or a hero. This was Superman as an idea. In another universe, Kingdom Come Superman ruled as a weary god. In Superman Prime 1,000,000, he lived for 85,000 years, bathing in the sun until he became a living star, glowing gold and immortal. Post-crisis Superman, responsibility over power. All-Star Superman, the god who chooses to be human. Superman Prime, the immortal guardian of eternity. Every story became a reflection of us, of how much power we wish we had, and how we'd use it if we did. Because Superman isn't just about strength. He's about restraint. Anyone can throw a punch that moves a mountain, but only Superman can hold back a punch that could destroy a world. That's true power. But Superman's story doesn't end in the stars. In the modern age, writers brought him back down to earth, back to journalism, family, and human struggle. Because as his powers grew beyond imagination, the challenge became simple. How do you make a god relatable again? That question would define the modern era of Superman. And the answers might surprise you. Because the latest Superman doesn't just lift worlds. He carries the weight of being human. For nearly a century, Superman's power has risen, fallen, and reshaped itself with every generation. But the modern Superman, the one we know today, isn't defined by how much he can do. He's defined by how much he chooses not to do. Because over time, DC finally understood something profound. A Superman without limits isn't inspiring. A Superman with restraint is. As comics entered the 21st century, Superman's powers were rebalanced yet again. Writers gave him structure, real-world logic. He was still immensely powerful, faster than light, stronger than any being alive, but not untouchable. He could bleed. He could lose. And most importantly, he could feel. In For All Seasons, we saw the boy from Kansas who never forgot where he came from. In Birthright, Superman wasn't just an alien savior. He was a man trying to belong. And in Superman, Up, and Away, his powers even vanished for a year, forcing him to protect Metropolis as Clark Kent. These weren't stories about a god above us. They were about a man among us. Then came the New 52 in 2011. A new continuity. A younger Superman. Stronger. Bolder. More reckless. He could survive black holes, bench press the Earth for 5 days straight, and even unleash a super flare, a burst of all his stored solar energy that wiped out everything around him. But there was a cost. The flare left him completely human for 24 hours. No powers. No flight. No invincibility. It was DC's way of saying, Even gods have consequences. Superman's power was no longer about what he could do. It was about what he shouldn't do. When DC Rebirth, 2016, began, fans got the best of both worlds, literally. The pre-Flashpoint Superman, older and wiser, returned with Lois Lane and their son, Jonathan Kent. For the first time, we saw Superman as a father. Not just a symbol of hope, but a teacher, a guide, a protector in a smaller, more intimate way. And that's when his powers took on new meaning. His strength wasn't about bending steel anymore. It was about raising a boy who could move mountains too. Even in the modern stories, like Superman, son of Kal-El, the power dynamic shifted. Superman wasn't just the strongest man alive. He was a legacy, a reminder that power means nothing without compassion, that the real challenge isn't saving the world, it's staying good while doing it. Today's Superman can still do the impossible. He can breathe in space, survive the vacuum of black holes, and hear the cries of an entire planet. But his true strength lies in what he chooses not to change. He could rule the world in seconds. He could end every war, dismantle every weapon, rewrite every law. But he doesn't. Because he knows what Pa Kent taught him long ago. You don't have to save everyone, son. Just do what's right. That's the paradox of Superman. He's not just the most powerful being on Earth. He's the most moral. His powers are infinite. But his humanity is what makes him legendary. Every era reshapes him. Golden Age, Silver Age, Modern Age. Each adds a new layer to the myth. Tomorrow's Superman might wield cosmic powers we can't even imagine. Or he might go back to being just a man in a cape, standing for what's right. But no matter how powerful he becomes, his purpose stays the same, to remind us what we could be if we always chose to do good. Because at the end of the day, Superman's greatest power isn't flight, or heat vision, or strength. It's hope. The unbreakable belief that good will always rise, even when it falls. So next time someone asks how powerful Superman really is, the answer is simple: as powerful as we need him to be. Because Superman's not just a character. He's the mirror of our best selves. The unbreakable belief that good will always rise, even when it falls. So next time someone asks how powerful Superman really is, the answer is simple: as powerful as we need him to be. Because Superman's not just a character. He's the mirror of our best selves.